What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're kicking off our 3-part coverage of Marvel's brand new story event called Devil's Reign. It's a 6-issue miniseries by writer Chip Zdarsky that focuses on the Kingpin becoming the mayor of New York City and outlawing all superheroes and vigilantes. The story takes us on a wild ride, so sit back, relax, and let's break down the first 2 issues of this very promising series. And spoilers inbound for the first 2 issues. The issue starts off with the Stromwyn twins on a yacht. If you're not familiar with them, they're essentially evil rich twins who tried to take over Hell's Kitchen a little while back, but of course they were defeated by Daredevil and the Kingpin. But it seems like they're taking the defeat on their chin, as they seem to still want to support / play games with Kingpin in a manner of speaking. And we'll find out exactly what that is towards the end of the issue. The comic then takes us to 1 week ago, where we see Daredevil meet up with Fisk, as we get captions of Fisk saying how much he hates Daredevil, like his outdated sense of morality. And the thing he hates most is his hypocrisy. We then see that Fisk had a section of Hell's Kitchen blocked off by the police, with Daredevil saying, "You clearly wanted my attention, but shouldn't you be at home with your bride?" If you didn't know, Fisk recently married Typhoid Mary. Fisk then just throws down a folder full of papers with a label, as Daredevil says, "I don't have time for whatever this is, and I didn't bring my reading glasses," which is obviously sarcastic because Daredevil is blind. Anyway, Fisk replies, "Then I'll tell you what this is, Daredevil. It's nothing, but it should be something. It's a folder from my private safe, which I dimly remember putting together, remember maintaining, labeled Daredevil's identity. And the pages inside are either blank or meaningless, like a sick joke, like someone switched them out from my most secure and secret place. Except they didn't, did they? Did they? I can feel it. You did something to my mind. Who are you?" But with that said, Daredevil says, "Sorry, Wilson, but it's called a secret identity," as he swings away. Now, if you're wondering what's happening here, well, a little while back, everyone knew that Matt Murdock was Daredevil, including Kingpin, as one of his superpowers is that he has information / blackmail on pretty much everyone as a way to get people to do things he wants them to do. But somehow the identity of Daredevil has not only been erased from Kingpin's files, but also his mind. Well, as Daredevil explains later on in the comic, a little while ago, the whole world knew his secret identity, but the Purple Man's children made the world forget who Daredevil really was, even though he didn't ask them to. The irony about that in relation to Fisk is that after he married Typhoid Mary, his feud with Daredevil kind of cooled down. But Fisk now thinks that Daredevil is toying with him, making him somehow forget who he is, reigniting his feud with Daredevil. Anyway, this pisses off Fisk so much that since he's the mayor of New York City now, he calls for a press meeting. He proceeds to tell the press, as well as the entirety of New York City and the nation, that New York is known for its resilience, and that they have suffered wave after wave of attacks, of destruction brought down on our great city, and at the heart of almost every one of those are superheroes. There's a saying, follow the money. With these tragedies, it's instead follow the destruction, and you'll find it leads back to these heroes. He basically goes on to say, we allow these unnatural monsters in capes and bright colors free reign in a city of good people trying to live their lives. And when we dare hold them accountable for their crimes, like the murderer Daredevil, they get a slap on the wrist, and then they go free to do what they've always done. He continues to say, well, no longer. We here in New York City feel that isn't enough. Over the last few weeks, I've been working with lawmakers to draft the Powers Act. Effective immediately, any individual who exhibits a use of powers deemed superhuman or commits acts of destructive vigilantism will be charged as a threat. He then tells the heroes who are listening, you are not better than us, not better than the hardworking people of the city. Do you wish to help society? Be a part of it, not above it. Now, if that all sounds a little familiar, like the premise of the story arc that turned into the blockbuster movie called Civil War, you're right. As news reports go around asking people what they think of Fisk's new law, Tony Stark tells a reporter, we've been down this road before. Superheroes serve a purpose and have saved not only New Yorkers, but the world many times over. This is a desperate move from a gangster mayor in an election year. We also learned that Fisk has sanctioned Thunderbolt Units, who are specialized officers that handle superhuman threats. With the news reporter saying, Commissioner Kyle says that there are avenues for powered individuals, including opportunities in one of these Thunderbolt units. We then see Storm responding to this saying, all mutants have diplomatic immunity as per our international agreement, so it would be in the mayor's best interest to leave us be. With all that said, of course the superheroes are not gonna stop saving people no matter what the law is. And who is the first vigilante to be televised after this new law is set in motion? Moon Knight, of course. The Thunderbolt units are trying to bring him in, but he's not going down without a fight, because Moon Knight. And when he easily defeats the Thunderbolt units, US agent shows up saying, Moon Knight, aka Mark Spector, aka probably a bunch of other names. You're under arrest. As we see him, Rhino, Agony, and a female Elektra are all working for the Thunderbolts, aka Fisk. But Moon Knight just replies, you want me? Come and get me, as he starts to solo the 4 villains. Elsewhere, we see the newly costumed Miles Morales saving a little girl from a fire, helping out firefighters. The firefighter says, son, you're a godsend. but you better go now. And the firefighter is right, because as he says this, a Thunderbolt unit comes in to start tasing Miles. They then place him in power dampening cuffs, at which point Captain America shows up telling the head of the Thunderbolt unit, "I know you're just doing your job, but he just saved lives." Essentially saying, let him go or we're gonna have trouble. They don't, so Captain America starts chucking his shield at their heads. More Thunderbolt units start coming out, but backup arrives for Cap, as we see Elektra Daredevil, and Ben Reilly Spider-Man show up to help. They all eventually retreat in the sewer with Miles after more Thunderbolt units start showing up. It's here where Daredevil says, "I did this. It's my fault." He goes on to tell them what I mentioned earlier, how the whole world used to know his secret identity, but Kilgrave's children made the world forget. Ben Reilly Spider-Man asks, "The Purple Man? You mean his kids can mind control people?" Daredevil answers saying they can, and Fisk knows something is wrong with his mind, and it's my fault. I taunted him when he confronted me. I could just tell him who I am, and maybe this will all stop. Then Captain America says it won't, and it's not your fault at all, and sacrificing yourself on his altar won't change a thing. Captain America continues to say he hasn't pushed this law through for the good of the city. It's his own vendetta. He's risking the lives of people we've sworn to protect. I wouldn't dare speak for the rest of you, but I won't let a tyrant stop me from saving lives. Don't give in to him, Daredevil. Not now, not ever, because once you do, he'll take it all. We are then taken to the Baxter building, where we see employees of the Thunderbolts tell Mr. Fantastic and Sue that they are no longer allowed to continue their work, no matter their previous arrangements with the government. Of course, Reed and Sue don't take this lying down, at which point we see Dr. Octopus show up, putting power dampening collars on their necks, revealing that he's working for the Thunderbolts and Fisk. But before they could take Reed and Sue away, Sue is able to hit a button that alerts her two children, Ben and Johnny, to code X7, allowing them to evacuate the building before the Thunderbolt units and Dr. Octopus can capture them. We then see Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and their daughter walking through the city. Johnny says, "Looks like Moon Knight got arrested recently," and while they're walking, they see an explosion go off that sends a bus flying. Cage then runs over to stop it from crushing other cars, at which point a voice says, "Thanks for the assist, but the Thunderbolts got it under control. Now do me another favor and put these on," as we see it's Shocker who throws handcuffs to Cage. Cage is less than amused and crushes the cuffs with a single hand. Then he and Jessica start attacking Shocker and the Thunderbolt units. As the couple takes out the Thunderbolts, everyone around them is videoing them on their phones. And once Cage realizes that, he says, "Wilson Fisk is a gangster and a fool. A big man who's small, who needs to show his power. Over me, my friends, and you. This isn't just about superheroes, it's about a man with his grip on all of us." He makes it sound like if he loosens it, you'll just get in trouble. The kind of trouble that shows him that it's actually you who has the power. "I'm not Captain America, I'm not Mr. Fantastic. I'm just a New Yorker like you. And if someone's in trouble, I do what New Yorkers do. I help. If Mayor Fisk wants to stop me, he can come and try." Elsewhere, we see Fisk having a meeting with his estranged son, Butch, who is now taking over the role as Kingpin since Fisk is now mayor of New York City. Fisk essentially says to his son that he's implemented this new law for superheroes and vigilantes to help him. It'll make his job as the new Kingpin easier, but he doesn't see it that way, as their conversation goes downhill pretty quickly. After this, we are taken to Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' apartment, where they're packing their things up in order to flee the city, and when they walk outside, they're greeted by Tony Stark, and he says to them, "We're gonna take down Fisk, and we have to do it legitimately. So we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way, with a ton of money and a candidate. I'm gonna run for mayor." Elsewhere, we see Dr. Octopus in Reed Richards' laboratory experimenting with all of his tech, and we also see that Fisk has trapped the Purple Man. We learn that Fisk is immune to the Purple Man's power, as his will is too strong, so he grabs him by the throat and starts stabbing him, while saying, "What a squandered gift. Perhaps it's time for someone worthy to possess it for a better world," alluding that Fisk is gonna somehow try to steal the Purple Man's power for himself. After this, we see the Strowman twins are going to be funding Wilson Fisk's campaign as he's running for president, which is nuts and very Lex Luthor. And that's the end of issue 1, so now let's jump into issue 2. Issue 2 starts off with Luke Cage calling Danny Rand, trying to recruit him back to the Avengers, but Rand tells Luke, "I'm not Iron Fist anymore, Luke." And as Luke is on the phone with Danny, Crossbones, who's working with the Thunderbolts, comes crashing in ready to arrest him. But come on, this is Iron Fist. He's definitely not going down easy. He's one of the best fighters in all of Marvel. Elsewhere, we see Elektra Daredevil shows up at Fisk's office saying, "What are you doing, Wilson? You know none of this will stand. This desperate play, the people you're up against have the powers of gods." Fisk then tells her, "You're a killer. You could solve all of this, except you've been neutered recently, haven't you? You're playing a long game with the real Daredevil, which means no killing. I, however, am the opposite of neutered. See, I spent a fortune amassing information on friends, on enemies, their weaknesses," as he holds his new cane up that has the Purple Man's finger inside of a jewel. Essentially, he threatens Elektra as he knows how she portrayed Matt Murdock. He tells her the file he had on her he gave to an eager recipient, and says, "Now go, little ninja," which she does because she doesn't need any of her secrets getting leaked, because if Matt Murdock finds out she betrayed him, she'll lose everything. Elsewhere, we see Captain America, Tony Stark, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and the rest of the Avengers gather at Avengers Mansion. because the sub-basement is still secretly active. We are then taken to Ben Reilly's Spider-Man, where we see that Taskmaster and Whiplash have taken the Daily Bugle hostage in order to draw out Spider-Man, which has obviously worked. We are then taken to an underwater prison for superpowered criminals. We see this is where Reed and Sue had been taken, and they get into a confrontation with some criminals who are not happy that they're there. Then back at the City Hall sub-basement, we see Dr. Octopus and Wilson Fisk stare at a jewel-encapsulated purple man connected to some sort of device. Otto tells Fisk this device will be able to coerce people within New York, not control them. Fisk says, "That will be enough to win the city, Otto, and I'll handle the rest." Fisk then tries to use it on Octavius, but he just looks at him saying, "Sorry, Wilson, I made sure I was well protected from the Purple Man's influence with special neuroblockers. My part of our deal is done." Elsewhere, we see Elektra meet up with the person Fisk gave her secret files to, which we find out was Kraven the Hunter, who sees Elektra as his next challenging target. Meanwhile, back in the Avengers sub-basement, the rest of the Avengers tell Tony he shouldn't be the one to run for mayor, as it would just be rich dude versus rich dude, which doesn't seem like a path to victory. Luke then says, "I should run. This isn't ego, this is about beating Fisk. We cool?" Tony reluctantly says, "Yes, of course, and I'll make sure you have all the funding you need, Luke," as he turns away angrily, saying to a thankful Luke, "Not a problem." Elsewhere, Ben Reilly's Spider-Man is getting his butt handed to him by Taskmaster, who eventually puts the power dampening collar around his neck and kicks him out a window. But Spider-Man is able to slow his fall with the web shooter, even though it dislocated his shoulder. And when he lands on top of a car just barely surviving, he's greeted by a Thunderbolt unit. We are then taken back to Dr. Octopus, where we see he has his own plan, telling himself, as always, Otto Octavius understands true power. True power is the laboratory of the mad scientist Reed Richards, with his wild inventions like an interdimensional gate, so let Fisk control a city. My plans, as ever, are superior. As we see him bring in other versions of the Hulk, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider, and with that, this issue comes to an end. I personally think the series is off to a great start, and I'm very curious to see what new status quo it sets up for the Marvel Universe, as it's definitely a story that's going to change things for the entirety of said universe, not just a certain character. Although it does seem like it's going to have huge ramifications for certain characters like Luke Cage, who I assume is going to end up becoming the new mayor for New York City by the end. Again, I really enjoy these first two issues. I love how it's kind of taking on the Civil War approach to banning superheroes and vigilantes. But that's just my 2 cents. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments. And that's going to bring today's episode of Rant to a close. But if you enjoyed today's episode, check out this one right here to my left, your right. And if you like the channel, subscribe, like, and comment, all that stuff. It helps us out. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.